Welcome back to the Composite Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Sarah Moore, and today we are joined by an incredible competitor, athlete, and posing coach, Georgia Voice. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
I'm super excited to hear more about your journey. I feel like from what I've seen, it's super inspirational. So can you start by telling us a bit about how you started your fitness journey, like how you originally got into that?
Yeah, wow, it's an interesting story actually. And I love telling it because it always just reminds me just how unexpected life is when we think that we have certain plans or a certain path that we want to go down. And then you just kind of let life sort of take the lead and you just end up in all of these unexpected sort of magical spaces. So for me, bodybuilding, yeah. Well, hello. For those of you who might not know me, my name is Georgia Voice. I'm an international posing and performance coach. I've been doing this for the last couple of years. I'm also a group fitness instructor and a bodybuilding competitor myself. So I started my health and fitness journey back in 2018. Prior to that, I have had very sort of unique background and experience in acting and performing arts. So a bit of a blend there, bringing that into the posing coaching space as a competitor myself as well. And yeah, my journey started actually in the group hit training space. So I was very much in the acting realm, so performing arts, both on screen and on stage. And I got to a point for myself where I never had any nutritional awareness or training consistency. There was no sort of exercise that I even enjoyed. I really struggled with health and fitness. It was just something that I couldn't get into. And one day, I don't know, I kind of hit this wall when it came to acting. I felt really self-conscious in front of the camera. I didn't feel like my best self. I felt really uncomfortable. And I just remember, you know, not feeling like I would be cast in certain roles, like, the pretty girl next door. And, I remember just breaking down in class one day, just saying, I don't feel like myself. I don't feel good about myself. So yeah, back in 2018, I actually joined a sort of group hit training studio, and that just happened to be the thing that really kickstarted my journey. I really loved getting up really early in the morning and going to train. And from there, it started to have this roll on effect where I wanted to learn more about nutrition and putting good food in my body and fueling me and just continuing to just feel really good about myself, really empowered. And, fast forward a few years later, I became a group fitness instructor. I was still dabbling with, acting, performing arts. It's, expression is a really, really big part of my life and creativity. And I feel like I fell into bodybuilding. I hit a bit of a plateau with my sort of health and fitness journey, and something in me felt called to try something new. I was in a space with personal development where I really wanted to learn to show up for myself more and back myself when things get really tricky. And yeah, on social media, I found an athlete that just came up on my For You page, bodybuilding. There was a sports fitness model. And I never ever considered that I'd be one of those girls that would get up on stage and be in the health and fitness space, in the fitness industry. And yeah, fast forward to now, I compete and I help women get on stage. I help them to, just to become a really empowered, confident version of themselves. So still them, but to help them to shine on stage and to embrace their uniqueness as well.
Yeah, incredible. I love how you got into it. That's such a cool journey and such an interesting background as well, and an interesting blend of, the theatre background and acting into bodybuilding as well. And I can see how you kind of got into posing coaching. But you mentioned that you didn't really see yourself like as a bodybuilder, or didn't really see yourself getting on stage, but you obviously did it and you're still doing it now. So what was it, do you think, that made you actually make that commitment to start a prep and step on stage?
So yeah, as I said, I hit a plateau. It was around COVID time. I feel like everyone plateaued. But I'm trying to think if there was even a defining moment. It was just something different, I think, something to challenge myself. And I was 20, it was end of 2020 that I had found my coach at the time, and I connected with him through a friend. And I think I was talking to her, and she was saying how she's always wanted to do a bodybuilding competition. And I was in a space where I felt like I wanted to, yeah, like I said, I really wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to try something new, and I knew it was going to take a lot of time. I wasn't just going to jump on stage, 5 weeks from that point. It was about a year and a bit in the making. I was really just at a point where I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to sort of break out of that plateau. And I was made well aware that it was something that would be really challenging, that you would have to get into a routine, that you would have to make sacrifices, that you'd have to sharpen your discipline skills and put yourself first and show up for yourself. And I was in a space in my life where those things were really important for me, that I wanted to learn to choose myself first. It was very much a personal development journey for me, more than just the idea of getting up on stage in a bikini. It felt really personal for me. I really wanted to feel like I was doing it on my own. I was doing it for me and proving to myself that I can do hard things, that I can do scary things, things that I never, ever, ever imagined that I would ever do. And I think that that's just how I sort of came to that decision that I wanted to try a bodybuilding competition. But I learned so much more. It's so much more than what I ever thought that it was. And a lot of stereotypes that I initially had about bodybuilders before I ever got into bodybuilding, it really changed my whole perspective about this being on this side of the fence now.
Yes, absolutely. It is such a journey of self-improvement and self-development. And
Yeah.
I love about it too. Like that's why I got into competing as well, was just to, have something else other than just kind of going to the gym and improving, like wanted to see more improvements.
Something to work
And
towards. Yeah. Like it's your
yeah,
body. It's a work of art, and that's what it is, right? Yeah.
absolutely. And it's that constant development as well. Like, you step on stage, even if you win, there's still something to improve. There's still a next step. Like it's that constant improving. But thinking back to your first prep, like was it kind of as hard as you expected and as hard as people were saying?
Well, as a first timer, you just have nothing to compare it to. It's, I focused on a particular federation that I wanted to do as a first timer. Didn't realize how many federations there were and all of the requirements and the criteria of every federation. So I just focused on the one. And I do remember there was a bit of that comparison game, but for the most part, it was an incredibly positive and fulfilling prep. It was back in 2021. I had come off the back of doing a powerlifting competition, and that was super empowering. So I was already in such a great starting position. I just felt really proud of my body. I was in a really positive space. I didn't know what to expect, and I wanted to just trust the process and put yourself out there. You don't have anything to compare it to really, because you haven't done it. There's no initial data to compare, from previous prep. So the more that you do it, the more that you learn, the more that you grow, and you can never expect to get it right the first time, like
Yeah,
ever.
that is so true. And then what inspired you to become a posing coach?
Well, I mean, speaking of preps, I think the way that it happened for me is my second bodybuilding prep back in 2022 was not my finest prep. So I think that I jumped into prep too soon. I was on such a high with my first experience. I nearly won my pro card. I just, I was praised for my performance on stage and my presence and all of that jazz. And I feel like I slipped into a bit of an ego space where I didn't have that level of athlete maturity that I have now, where you can kind of sit back and go, have I actually done enough work to justify putting myself through a prep to get back on stage? And that's, I think, a mistake that a lot of first time athletes make. They get on stage way too soon, or they get back on stage way too soon. And that was really detrimental to my mental and emotional health. I didn't get into the level of conditioning that I knew I was capable of. And I was just in this constant state of comparison, comparing to other people, putting this pressure on myself to be better than I was. And I just didn't feel like I was doing it for the right reasons. And, I was going through some things. I went through depression at the end of the year, and I was in the process of getting diagnosed for ADHD. So there's a lot of shit going on. And I had a pretty shit experience. I put myself on stage when I was not ready, and it was a very humbling experience. It taught me a lot about accountability, taking accountability for myself and my shortcomings, and not blaming other people. And I felt really embarrassed. I remember at the end of the year, I just was not in a good place. And so I took some time to, work on myself. I got my diagnosis, and I spent the first half of, the following year in 2023, just kind of rebuilding myself up. In that experience, I think a lot of bodybuilders, you can let it make or break you if you have a shit prep. And I nearly did. But I kind of just chipped away in the background, and I wanted to do another prep again, but I wanted to be quiet and learn to be humble about it, and just come back to those humble beginnings, like when I first started my prep, where I had a really positive, mindset about prep, that I wasn't really worried about anyone else, and it wasn't about ego. I needed to learn to just strip the ego away and go, hey, like, I made mistakes. I learned about sportsmanship, and, so at that point, I had a friend that was in prep, and I was sort of supporting her through it. And I had a few people mention to me that at the time there wasn't a lot of posing coaches in the space. And people were encouraging me to do it. A lot of people said, there's something really unique that I think that you have to offer with your, your background with acting and performing arts. And I never thought that that was a thing. Posing coaching was something that I would end up having a business in. And just in the middle of 2023, I just put myself out there one day. I put a little compilation together of my posing on stage, and I had no attachments. I didn't sit down and go, right, let's make money out of this. I just said, hey, friends and strangers on the internet, we've got some shows coming up for season B, and I said, this is my experience, this is my background, and I wondered if anyone wants any support with posing coaching, and I feel like I have something unique to offer. And it just blew up straight away. The first month of posing coaching, I had between 13 to 20 clients a week, and I had over 20 clients in that season for posing clients in multiple federations, and some went pro, and it blew up. It's never been the same since. I don't know what my life was like. So when I talk about it, it's like, it was nearly 2 years ago. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I've learned a lot. So it was an accident, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is crazy to think, how much your life has changed just from one, making that decision to step on stage for the first time, and then also saying yes to helping someone with their posing, and then putting yourself out there as well. Like, was it scary when you put that video out there saying that you're offering those services? Like, did you have any kind of imposter syndrome?
Yes, actually, that's a great question. Yes, I did. I remember this. Oh my gosh, I remember saying, what gives me the right to offer posing coaching when I'm not a pro, right? And I very quickly realized that you don't have to be, quote unquote, a pro to be good at something. There are pro athletes that, just because you're a pro doesn't mean that you can be a good coach or a posing coach, and vice versa, right? Sometimes you can just be a coach and then not the other, and whether you have that title or not. And I feel like I've definitely proved that to myself and in the industry, that I'm not a pro yet. But even then, whether or not I have that sort of title, it doesn't take away from the fact that I am really good at what I do, and I'm proud to say that. I'm passionate, I'm open-minded, I'm open-hearted. I'm not afraid to be wrong. I'm not afraid to learn and be humbled. And bodybuilding and my bad experiences, taught me that about myself. And I was definitely, and I still get imposter syndrome sometimes, like, it's part of being human. I'm sure you get it too, right? You just, what gives me the right to, give advice and put myself out there, especially coming off the back of that shitty prep experience. That made it really difficult for me to put that post out there, because I just remembered feeling so just embarrassed that I put myself on stage when I just wasn't ready, and I wasn't the best version of myself back then. And I kind of thought, who would want to work with me? I didn't have a good prep last time, and it really didn't matter in hindsight. But yeah, good
Yeah,
question.
that's so true.
Yeah.
I think imposter syndrome is so common, and like I've definitely had it as well, and like still, still get it, but now I kind of see it as almost a sign that I'm growing. Like if I don't feel it, I'm a little bit, scared now. I'm like,
Feel
okay,
the
am I
fear.
just staying
Feel
in
the
the
fear
same
and do it
place? Like,
anyway.
am I not growing? That's suspicious.
Yeah.
So it is almost like a sign that you're growing and you're out of your comfort zone. But how do you think that you overcame that initial imposter syndrome? Was it just building that proof that you can actually do it and you've got clients?
I think well, there has to be a small part of you that believes that you are good enough and that you have something unique to offer. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? And the same goes for all athletes and first timers. I say that all the time. But I just remember for the first little bit, I was really genuinely quiet and humble about what I was doing. I didn't put myself out there and say, "Oh, I can pose everybody, and I'm experienced in all federations, whether I've done it or not." And I never pretend to be something that I'm not. I feel that I overcame that sort of imposter syndrome by quite literally just showing up as authentically as I can, and I still do now, and I remind myself that because my success in what I do has come from me just being myself and just showing up with my heart and being really intuitive and reminding myself to be humble because I remember what it felt like when I wasn't my best self, when I had the ego and I didn't take accountability for my shit. And then to see how drastically life can change and all of the magical things that can happen in your life when you just let go and just show up as yourself and just go, hey, here I am, do you like it? And it's okay if you don't, and people did. I mean, it's the most magical thing. It's like I feel like I'm being rewarded by just sharing my joy and my passion for personal development and mindset and performance and fitness and blending it all together. And it's just become this magical niche thing. And people like people want that. And it's awesome. It's so
Yeah.
rewarding. So yeah.
Yeah, that is so powerful. So as a posing coach, you've seen obviously a lot of competitors make mistakes and you've been fixing their mistakes as well. So what are some of the common posing errors that you notice that can be corrected?
One of the first things that comes to mind with posing errors, I mean, there's the general things that I could say about, the footwork and angling the body and all of those things because there's all different kinds of posing, requirements per federation and all of that. So I could go down that route, but I think the first thing that really comes to mind for me is an error that I find a lot of people make. Firstly, is not taking posing as seriously as their prep. And I realized that myself as well as a competitor and experiencing a lot of first timers when they come to me. Oftentimes I find that you'll have prep coaches that dabble with posing coaching, but it's not a niche. It's not like their prep coaching is that's their main forte, but they will offer the posing coaching as an extra thing. But the dangerous thing about that is if they're not up to date with the posing requirements, the trends, all of those things, dependent on the federation, that can be a disservice to their client because they might be teaching them something that's really outdated, or they might be posing them or saying that they are suitable for a particular category when they're not. So they pose them incorrectly. And then they might come to me really close to comp and have to kind of start from the ground up. Yeah, posing error is, I think, when a client they only get that one piece of advice or they just listen to that one coach without expanding and, like I said, taking their posing as seriously as their prep. Get a prep coach, get a posing coach that is separate because the posing coach, myself or anyone else who is, that's their forte, they can offer so much more value and detail in that niche than I personally believe that a prep coach can. Because a prep coach, they can deal with the niche and the details in everything that they do with their client's prep. But then to add on all of the detail that comes with the posing, the performance, the presentation, there's so much more that goes into it that people don't realize. So many things that people don't think about when it comes to posing and all of the things to consider when you're on stage, the do's and the don'ts, how to handle posing mistakes and spatial awareness, angling into the judges. There's just so much that people just don't think about because they just kind of glaze over the surface level of posing and they just go, oh, yeah, tick, 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 this, this, this. but they need to take more time. And that's where a posing coach comes in.
Yeah, 100% agreed. Invest in the experts and give yourself more time than you think you need is so, so important.
Yeah.
If everyone could do one thing to improve their posing, what would it be?
Get a posing coach. Get a posing coach. And go to workshops as well. I think that it's really important. Sometimes people do one or the other. They do too much of one and not enough of the other. I've had people that coast through posing workshops thinking that's going to get them through because they don't want to invest the money into a posing coach, but then they realize very quickly, okay, big mistake. And then vice versa, people who will just see their posing coach, but they don't allow themselves the time and the space to practice in public with other competitors, to learn spatial awareness, to learn how to pose with those nerves and to make those mistakes even in front of people while it's, your practice run before doing it on stage. So yeah, I think getting a posing coach, but also complementing that with posing workshops.
Absolutely. And for someone who lives in a location where they potentially can't go to posing workshops because there aren't any nearby, is there any advice that you can offer to kind of get over those nerves or practice posing in front of people?
Well, there's a lot of posing coaches that also offer online posing coaching. So myself, I offer online as well. But yeah, I think if you find, hopefully they can find the right posing coach. Don't be afraid to dabble and find a few. Give yourself time to be able to do that, to find the right fit. And, hopefully that posing coach has enough of the experience to be able to share their wisdoms, whether it be online or even through the posing lessons, to offer the insight of, what to expect before show day, what to pack, all of those things, all those details, what to expect before stage, on stage, after stage, just giving them just as much support as possible. I think that's really important. And to connect with other people, actually, that's another thing, is to don't be afraid to reach out to someone on social media. I think sometimes people just get caught up idolizing these people through a screen and thinking, oh my gosh, they look a certain way, and kind of ostracizing themselves essentially from people in the community, because you will be surprised how common it is that whatever you're feeling, they're probably feeling the same thing. And people are probably feeling the same thing about you. I think people forget that. I think the more that you can put yourself out there and connect with other people in the industry and ask questions, but ask questions from lots of people. So then you can gather that information and, see what the common feedback is, what is the common advice that's happening, and also just to be able to gather your own opinions and form your own experience. Don't keep yourself in the dark. Prep is hard enough, man. It's a lone
Yeah.
wolf thing, but there are aspects of it that, you can really reel in with the community side of things, and connect with other people, like what you do, right, with your business as well. You're connecting with so
Yeah,
many women.
absolutely.
It makes you feel like you're a part of it more. You know what I mean? You feel like you're part of this thing, and that also translates to stage. When you get to stage, you feel more connected. There's, this girl, hey, I've seen you at these workshops. Turn around to the girl behind you before you get on stage and give her a genuine compliment, or even just turn around to the girls behind you and be like, hey, are you guys shitting yourself as well? I'm nervous. What about you? And everyone most likely would go, yeah, same. And then instant connection. So when you get on stage, you just feel like you're part of it.
Yeah, that community aspect is so, so important. And I think actually putting in a little bit of effort to build that is really important too. Like reaching out to people on Instagram, starting conversations. I love it when people message me and they tell me about their shows, or they're doing the same show as me and we can catch up. And, if we're in the same location, catch up for walks or training or posing. Like it's such a cool community. And I always set up group chats for all the shows as well through the comp closet. So like if anyone is ever competing in any of the FMG shows, then please message me and I can add you to a group chat. You can, meet up with local girls, and it's really cool to just build that community. I think that takes away from the nerves as well and just makes the prep easier, because like you said, like everyone goes through similar things while they are on their own journey. Everyone kind of faces the similar challenges of prep that other people who aren't prepping won't necessarily understand.
Yeah, I love that. I'm seeing a lot more community-based events, walking, coffee and walks and things like that are happening. I do my little monthly events for women who are in and out of prep, or even if they just come across my page and they're like, I want to be part of that, just to create spaces where people feel safe and accepted, and it's, socially acceptable to bring your meal prep and your diet right, just, yeah, it makes it feel more wholesome. And yeah, exactly what you just said. It's part of the experience. I think it's part of the journey. I think it's something that I've learned over the years as well. I think bodybuilding has more of a community than I ever realized, but you just have to open your eyes and just put yourself out there and see what happens.
Yeah, 100%. I absolutely love the community around it.
Yeah.
So, running a business while competing can be pretty demanding and pretty busy. How do you manage all of these responsibilities?
I'm still trying, if I'm honest. I'm still trying. I competed in FMG last year, their first show in Sydney, and that was amazing. And I was also just at the peak of my business at that time. It was just I had 40 plus active posing clients, and I was in prep, and it was one of the hardest things that I've actually ever done, but yet very rewarding because I got through it. Um, I'm still learning. If I'm honest, I'm still learning to juggle and to set boundaries more with myself, because I love what I do so much. I feel like I found a calling in life and a purpose to be able to share all of the things that I have to share, and be in the joy for it all. But I also need to have these boundaries with myself where I can step back and go, hey, I need to stop. I'm human too. I need to rest. I need to have my own social life outside of bodybuilding and my business and work. So it is something that I'm still juggling. I'm getting better at it, and I'm getting better at strengthening my boundaries. And it all just comes back to, again, just believing in my value and what I have to offer. And yeah, not over giving. I have a tendency to do that. I think I have a tendency to overextend myself and give more than what is even necessary because I care. But sometimes it can be at an expense to myself. And I wonder if you feel the same way,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
what you do.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to give the most to my clients. So there's, some days there's just absolutely no boundaries. But I think when you're prepping as well, like you need to have boundaries and you need to be, I guess, like time blocking actual time out for yourself, which is hard when you're running a business and prepping and you want to, give the most to your prep and give the most to your clients or your work or your business. But it actually makes you more productive. Like if you're getting enough sleep and you're actually winding down properly and you're taking, an hour a week for a sauna or a massage or whatever it is, it makes you so much more productive and actually it gives you more to give. So I think it is important to schedule that time as hard as it is.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree 100%. And I notice the difference when I do get to put myself first and do those things and put the work down and go to bed at a reasonable hour. And yeah, I've definitely been implementing those things, and self-care is super important. And I preach that to my clients as well. And I've been getting better at putting myself first in that regard, because I want to put them first because it makes me happy. But then I also notice the difference, like you said, when you schedule that time for yourself, when you say no, even if it's going to disappoint someone else, or someone's not going to be happy with your availability, then maybe they weren't the client for you, and I have definitely learned that as well, is that if people, the right people will value you, respect your boundaries and how you do things for yourself, and the wrong people will, yeah, question and judge and turn away, and that's okay, because then that will make space for the right people. So I've been reminding myself that when I do set my boundaries, to remind yourself that you're important, that you are important too, and you should put yourself first, so then you can be your best self for other people. So I'm definitely aware of that.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And you've had some impressive placings in competing. So, top three last year in FMG. What do you think was the secret to your success in that show?
So coming off the back of the not so great prep back in 2022, and giving myself that time to reconnect with myself and my reason for why I started this whole bodybuilding journey in the first place. Like I said, coming back to humble beginnings, since working with so many incredible women from all different walks of life, all different levels of experiences and ages in bodybuilding and in my posing coaching work, it really inspired me to really focus on mindset, knowing that prep gets hard. Prep is challenging. It's everything that you have going on in life that you would normally handle with a certain level of bandwidth and energy, and then you take that away while you're in prep. You have the same level of commitments, if not more. Sometimes it feels like it's more, but you have less bandwidth is quite challenging. And on top of that, juggling a business and helping other women who are going through the hormone changes and the stress, it was, like I said, it was one of the most challenging things that I've ever had to do. But it really taught me resilience, and to overcome that, to like how I overcame that experience to get on stage for FMG. I think the biggest thing was the believing in myself. I think outside of the obvious answers of tracking your food and your steps and your sleep and your water and all of those tick things, the biggest thing for me was the mindset and tapping into that part of me that really believes that I'm worthy, that I'm good enough, that I have something unique to offer. And it really was about me proving to myself that I could essentially redeem myself from that negative prep experience from 2022. It really was about me just it changing the way that you speak as well. When you're in prep, mindset is so important. And I really learned that while I was going through my last prep for FMG. Juggling everything that I did, it would have been so easy to just have a mental breakdown and just cave in and give up. But it was the way that I spoke to myself. It was the way that I spoke to others about my prep. It's the way that I stayed in that sort of lighthearted space, and that really made a difference. And everything that I shared with my clients about mindset and really tapping into that personal why. Why am I doing this? What does it mean to me? Because then that will carry to stage. And I wanted to role model that for those women who struggle to believe in themselves, for those women who've gone through who've gone through prep. Like, life doesn't stop for you doing a prep. Life just I've had clients go through divorces and moving house and just mental illness and so many things, and then I had my own stuff. I wanted to show them that you can do hard things and you can persevere. Even before I got on stage, oh my God, that was an experience. I didn't feel like I was ready. I was about to have a panic attack, But I just remembered what I would say to my clients is, just, you're here, just fucking do it, like, feel the fear and do it anyway. And then I said to myself before I got on stage, my worst is it's like someone else's best, so it's like, give yourself more grace for the person that you are in that moment and just embrace it. You get to that point, there's nothing else you can do but to just enjoy it. So yeah, I overcame that prep, juggling a business, by just speaking more kindly to myself and just trusting that things will be okay.
Yeah, that is such underrated advice. And I think mindset is so, so important. So, based on your experience and the preps that you've been through and your clients' experiences as well, what advice would you give to someone who is prepping for their first competition?
Or give yourself time. Give yourself a lot more time than you anticipate. Way too often, I have clients come to me and they barely started with their coach. They'd barely been working with their prep coach, and they jump into a prep way too soon without going through having a proper timeline, at least a year out from when they want to compete, to have a plan with their coach. There is so much more than what you think. It's not just about getting on stage in a pretty bikini. And too often that's going to land you in a not great space. It's so risky if you just dive into this experience without educating yourself, taking the time to find a good coach, because as I'm sure you know, the fitness industry and bodybuilding in particular, it is saturated. It's oversaturated with, there are a lot of coaches. It's so important to do your research on the federation. Find the one that aligns with you the most, that calls to you. Educate yourself on the category. Find out. Go see a posing coach, experienced one, with a good reputation and proof of their work. And same with a prep coach. Have a look at the proof of their work. Don't just go to the first one you see. And same for posing coaches, take your time. It should take at least, I'd say, at least a few months to find the right fit. Because there's no one size fits all when it comes to a coach or a posing coach. And I feel that that's where a lot of first timers fall short, that they don't give themselves enough time to educate. They're very quick to just listen to the first thing they get told. And it's so dangerous because I've heard some horror stories, and I've been there and witnessed my clients on the back end with some, poor coaching and also poor posing coaching from previous coaches. And it's scary to see how it negatively impacts their experience. And, your first time, you'll never forget the first time. You want it to be magical experience. You want it to be something that is worth remembering. Just hate to see people feel so regretful diving into something thinking it's just like so fun, and then they come out with a fucking eating disorder. It's so common. So yeah, please take your time, please, please, please. So important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's a massive decision that you're making, when you build your team, because you do need a whole team around you. You need your coach, you need your posing coach, you need a physio, like people who can actually help you feel good as well. So I think, like you said, take your time. Building that team is super, super important. Make sure you get references, and make sure that you kind of know what your values are as well. Like, I think health should be top priority always as well when you're choosing a coach. And then obviously finding experienced posing coaches, so important as well. So what are your goals going forward in regards to competing in business and everything?
Well, I really wanted to compete this year. I really wanted to do Worlds, but I really felt in my heart that life had other plans. So I'm putting it off. I'm hoping to compete next year. I know that the stage will always be there. So my goals is definitely to compete with FMG again. Absolutely. I definitely found a home in that federation, as well as NBA, Natural Bodybuilding Australia. They just continue to evolve and get better and better. And both those federations very much align with my values around community and connection. And there is just something really authentic about those two federations. They really emphasize community and family. They're really genuinely for the athletes, at least in my experience from what I've seen, and what I've experienced both as a posing coach and as an athlete. They really care about preserving art of bodybuilding, but also giving you the opportunity to stand out as your own unique self as an athlete, and not necessarily pigeonholing you to looking like everyone else. So I absolutely appreciate that about those federations. So I'd love to compete with them again. And as a coach with my business, I have big plans to continue to expand internationally. So had amazing opportunities to travel interstate and internationally, and work with clients online across the world. So I plan to continue to expand in that realm and reach more of an international audience, to continue to travel around the world and to new places, and to meet women across the world, and be part of their journey to stage. Yeah, that's what I'm planning to do this year. Just I'm taking more time to expand on my business, and I would love to get my own posing studio, my own space, but I'm patient and I'm not going to rush it. Just we'll see where life takes me.
Yes, well, I'm so excited to see everything that you do. Where can people find you online if they want to follow your journey or even inquire about posing coaching?
So my personal page is Georgia_voice, but I'm pretty active on my business page. So on Instagram, it's at personalized posing. And I also have my website, www.personalizedposing.com. And if you have any inquiries about posing coaching or anything at all, please feel free to send me a message. And you can also get my email as well if people don't do the IG. It's admin@personalizedposing.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey and sharing your advice as well. I'm sure listeners will find this super helpful and super inspiring.
Thank you. No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It was such a lovely time speaking with you.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much to our listeners as well. If you could please rate this podcast on whatever you're listening to it on, give it a follow as well. It really does help us to grow and get more incredible guests on like Georgia.
Thank you so much.